In this video, I'm going to show you how to build and create a self-sufficient paradise in only 2 years. Yep, I created this space in actually, it's a bit over 26, 27 months, but I had a 9-month break where I didn't do much at all for a while because I wasn't well. But why that was happening, plants were still growing and things were happening behind the scenes, even though I was taking a break, which is absolutely awesome because once you know how to put these systems into place, so you cut down on pest control, you don't have problems with diseases, or very less, and you can start producing food in anywhere from 10 to 14 days onwards forever, and saving lots of money and getting tons of healthy fresh food on your kitchen plate. So you can generally get around about 15 to 20% very quickly if you don't mind eating salads and things like that. Oh, kookaburra in the background. Oh, gotta love that, yeah? Now, habitat is very, very important. And as I said, pests and disease problems, we really need to sort that out quickly. And we need to build soils and we need to work on establishing the garden so it becomes productive quickly. Now, if you're watching this and you've got this far, good for you, because this is possibly going to be one of the best videos that I believe I have ever made as far as content goes and passing on my knowledge. I'm a horticulturist. In the year 2000, I was in a motorbike accident. I've been growing food for years and selling to restaurants and things before that, but I went and studied agribusiness and I majored in horticulture, organics, soils, avocado management, and Australian native foods. Now I did extra units because I wanted to learn how to become self-sufficient and grow more fresh food at home. So if that sounds good to you, stay in this video and watch it right through. Actually, save it, save it somewhere wherever you do, bookmark it, and make sure you come back to this video from time to time because this is where people pay thousands of dollars to actually learn this stuff. And it took me years, even though I studied for years, it took me years to put it all into practice and to finally I got in this permanent space here where I could put it into practice. Now, if you're just interested, you're renting, maybe down the line, you're going to do something like me. I was a renter for years. I still rent now, but this is a permanent rental solution for me, which is really, really great. So we're going to talk about how I started establishing food straight away, how I started building soils very, very quickly, how I'm still working on building soils and building systems and establishing environment and habitat to keep down pests and diseases and bring in the birds and all the really cool stuff to do all the work for me, and how when I have a break, it's still producing food. So let's get into it. It's going to be an awesome one, as I said, possibly one of the best I've ever done. Now, we will look at the chickens a bit later on down the line. These girls only turned up a few months ago and they are still eating and they play a big role in this as well. But look, you don't need to have chickens to pull this off. We do have another little bird that I'm going to show you that produces eggs as well. And we'll get into that as time goes on. But firstly, I want to talk about how do we get food straight away. So around about 15 to 20% of our food on our kitchen plate. And that starts with container gardening. And if you're into microgreens and growing microgreens, well, you can have food on your plate within 7 to 14 days. Some crops produce really quickly, like radish, 7 to 10 days, depending on the time of year you get started. 2 weeks if it's really cold, and or just going in the spring and things like, or you got lights and stuff like that. Now, I've been building a container garden out front here. I did have my first container garden around the back where we're looking now, because you want to keep everything nice and close to the kitchen. But I started, we can see here, the Victory Garden. V for Victory, my friends, a cost of living Victory Garden, to show people how to grow more fresh food at home quickly and efficiently and save dollars. This is really a passion for amount of series that I'm creating. These are eggplants at the front. One's in a grow bag, one's in a pot, and we discussed that with about foam boxes and things in a recent video. So check that out, foam boxes versus plastic. We've got lots of things growing on here, and you can learn so much in that Victory Garden series about how I'm producing it, growing food in containers vertically, horizontally, and actually we're going to be growing down eventually as well, and building a soil profile at the same time, composting in the back, and even putting in like worm farms and things like that into the future, and using all this amazing space. So, container gardening, I'm not going to get into it too much now. You can watch the series and learn how I'm growing this food here and producing quickly. What we're going to talk about next is getting our perennial crops in. So we're in the front yard at the moment, and one of my favorite perennials is the sweet potato. Now, we do have other potatoes growing, normal potatoes growing in pots as well. We'll show them just quickly before we head outside. So sweet potato, you can eat all the leaves and things. They're all edible, related to kangkong. And you get lots of tubers. You can save the tubers, and the leaves are really great to eat in stir fries and use as a spinach substitute. You'll read in the comments box below, lots of people say, yep, I agree, Marty. Now, we do have one problem here with this plant, and this is my eggplant, and you can see I've got, these are the really bad spotted, 12 spotted lady beetle, and they're hammering this plant, so I'm going to have to come in out here and get them, because they don't have anything that's working on them. I'm going to cut this plant right back after I harvest all this fruit off it and give them no food source. So that's one way I'm doing that, because I'm growing lots of eggplants and I don't want them moving on when they're finished onto other eggplants. So perennials, really important. How do we get and look at our perennials? Oh, I'm getting dive bombed by birds. Let's discuss fruit trees. And then we're going to discuss the food forest. The food forest is really important in playing a big role. And you can build a little mini food forest. You don't have to have a lot of space. It's all about just building habitat, bringing in the bees and the birds, and allowing little lizards and little things that can hunt and predate on the bad insects. So, fruit trees. Now, you can start your fruit trees in containers first and get a nice big root system in them. Then you can dig your holes. Now, the best time to plant fruit trees is when the ground is warm. So generally once summer's sort of kicked in, or you're getting into sort of late summer when it's still warm. Now, for some reason, one of these chickens are getting out. Well, how did you get out? How did you get out, little girl? Come on. That has got me. I am stumped on how you got out. You found a hole somewhere. Whoop. There she goes. One thing about chickens, they're escape artists, and if they do get out, they could become a major problem. But anyway, let's get into talking about these fruit trees here. Now, I've got lots of fruit trees, and we can discuss more about them, but first we're just going to talk about the citrus. So here we've got a mandarin tree growing. This is the first one that went in. I put a worm farm underneath the tree that was connected to the ground. It fed this tree really quickly and got it pumping. Now it's planted close to the chicken coop, so it can get the roots under and get the feed from here around the outside of the chicken coop, so I don't have to fertilise it all the time. As the leaves grow out and over, that's what we call the drip line. Now I'll show you the drip line on our large, this is our only not even 2 years old, this guy's been in. It's already 10 feet, so 2.5 meters. It's a lime, and you can see the leaves are growing over the edge of the chicken coop, which means that the roots are coming right out to you on the drip line, and they're getting feed from these chickens, mulching it over, manuring in here. I am also composting underneath. And so, yeah, once you've got that happening, you don't have to feed the plants as much. As I said, I can take a break and it's going to get its own food as long as we've got enough rain coming in. And, yep, you can harvest your own fruit. Look at that. We have a nice big lime. This will be our first harvest of the season. Really, really happy about that. And lots of flowers, lots of fruit on here. And yeah, it's connected to the worm farm. Now, we're going to come back to this bale system, which is basically an advanced no-dig garden, producing a lot of food here, and how I'm building soils using that system. So once that garden is finished and I'm going, oh, I'm just too old to keep up with it anymore, I've produced amazing soil here, and I can plant another fruit tree or some perennials. And we've got this guy here, which is a perennial. It's a choco, and that's going to be there for years. So you need to think about your perennials as well as your annuals. So before we move on any further, I want to give you the ABC method so you start to understand. And this is how I've been developing and teaching others about setting up farms, setting up backyards, setting up systems so you can get food. So your A crop are your sprouts or your microgreens. We're going to move around into the food forest any second, right? I'm going to talk about that. So your A are your microgreens, your sprouts, things like that. And we have more chickens. I see what's happened. This door is down. Okay, there's a door with the escape hole. So I'm just going to have to catch the chickens and put them back, and I'll be back in a second. That's the whole thing about keeping these, but at least I know how they got out now. Anyway, we got the chickens back in the coop, and we're here moving around the food forest, which is really only a bit over a year old. Now, I want to thank Pepe Fasos from 560 Farms, you're watching this, for helping me and bring his slasher in and clear the area. My whole backyard was a mess, man. It was full of weeds, every obnoxious weed, illegal weed on the planet. Still some here, but we're slowly getting rid of them. As you can see, this really nasty vine, if you know the name of it, I just can't remember at the moment. It's growing everywhere, and some of the weeds and stuff, and he did a great job coming in and slashing it all back so I could actually go in and plant this food forest. Now you can see here, look at this, banana trees. Had 2 banana trees donated to me. Now I haven't gone and thinned out these banana trees, which you're supposed to do. I've just let them do their thing, because we want to use the leaves and stuff for cooking and doing wraps and all different types of stuff and bakes and things. So they serve more of a purpose. Now, we actually do have bananas, guys. As we move through into the food forest, our first hand of bananas. Now, I think I'm going to have to cover these over very soon, because we do have fruit bats here, but it's covered all by the bush and everything. So I'm more worried about the possum getting into these bananas. Now, the banana leaves are used for so many things. And even this flower here, well, I think when it's first established, they make a banana wine, believe it or not. But they eat the flower or something. My wife was telling me about, she's Filipina, and she was telling me about that. So we might look at that in the future as well. But our first hand of bananas, I'm going to have to get a bag and cover those over. So why is the food forest so important other than just getting food? Well, this is the habitat for all the everything that lives around here. It also builds in the soil floor, building habitat in the soil floor. So all the different microbes and worms and things are starting building up over time. We're getting roots in the ground, which really help. And these big leaves, like the bananas, they're photosynthesizing and sending energy down to the ground, which will help everything grow. Now, we do have some more sweet potato just growing along here on the ground. It's more just as a ground cover than anything, and I don't really expect to get many sweet potato out of that, but they are spreading all over the ground over here, and they'll find a good spot eventually, and in time we will have sweet potato. Now, as we come through here and we start to understand the food forest, we're providing habitat and housing for bees, insects, all those type of things. Now, you're going to always have good insects and bad insects, and you want to have a good balance. You've got to have the bad insects so there's food for the good insects. So the bad insects are the herbivorous and the good ones are the carnivorous, and we want that balance. So we want the good carnivorous insects feeding on on those ones that munch on our plants and stuff like that. So once we've got a good balance of spiders, and we've got little sucking insects that hunt and predate, praying mantis, assassin bugs, they're a few of the real good ones, lady beetles. Now here's a lemon myrtle here. This lemon myrtle's just only been planted a bit over a year, and it's got this beautiful lemon scent. It's Australian native, and it's used in replace of a kaffir lime or any type of lime flavouring a lot in fish. And I wish I had smell-o-vision to show you, because this is absolutely just brilliant. Now, when you're planting a food forest, you want to have a canopy. You're going to have mid-range plants, so in the middle somewhere, so you can have things running up and vining and stuff like passion fruits and stuff, which we're going to show you in a little while. And then you can have things like gingers and stuff down below, and betel leaf and different things like that that are growing down in the bottom canopy, and they love those spaces and growing lots and lots of fresh food for you. Now, what you want to do is you want to also have natives growing in here. So the lemon myrtle is native to further north than here, but it'll grow here no problem. And we've got things like papaya. You can see that vine is growing up it, and that nasty thing. I'm going to have to come in. I can't cut that with my hand, but this papaya is it's winter. It's just gone off winter. We're not even in summer yet, so it'll start fruiting up and get much bigger fruits than those. And you know, we've got some plants that were left here from when we first moved in, and I've just left them in here. They're beautiful. I can't remember what they're called now. And the neighbour, we had this big storm, so I had to fix the fence to stop these dogs from coming in. And the neighbour, so the fence fell over. And we've got a macadamia here. Now you can see here, this is not a grafted tree. This is actually grown from seedling. And what it will do is it will produce nuts and throw the nuts down. And the nuts are actually really, really valuable, because they're the ones that people want to graft on. This type of thing, it's called a H2. And yeah, we can graft our own nuts, take cuttings from the tree and graft onto it. And so we've got like some type of ginger growing here as well. Really pretty, which shows it was already here, which shows we can keep growing different types of gingers. Now my wife, she comes out and she collects those and uses them in the kitchen as a flower. They look absolutely beautiful in a pot. So we're going to move down. Actually, before we move down further and show you what I'm doing here. So this is our habitat area, right? That also provides a windbreak and places where birds can sort of be up high and then dive down and grab things. So it could be anything, a kookaburra up there and just diving down and grabbing a rat or a mouse or something like that. It could even be after a little frog or anything like that. Now, I'll just show you a ground cover plant. So this is a ground cover plant called betel leaf, and it grows and runs along the ground like a strawberry. And it started off with one plant here, and this leaf is edible and it's highly nutritious. You just break it off, you can steam it, or you can just make it as a wrap like that. It'll grow from cuttings from one little tiny piece of wood that you stick anywhere around the garden, and eventually once it settles in, you've got food for life growing the betel leaf plant if you live in the subtropics or tropical regions. Now, we have here, this is a guava tree, and it was here when I first come, but it had a problem, so we cut it down, and I planted a passion fruit here, and it's covered the guava tree. And once we get a good run of passion fruit, I will cut it right back and let the the guava really go into summer, because we are still a few weeks away from summer fully kicking in. So December, January, February. And yeah, it's already producing food for us. We got fruit. So passion fruit is a very good one to get started, especially if you buy a grafted one. You can get fruit within 3 to 6 months. We even have cassava growing under here, which just come from a cutting, was given to us underneath the mango tree that has also been cut back. It wasn't doing so good. It had been here for years. It produced only one mango. So we're letting new suckers coming through, and we're going to produce a whole new tree that's manageable. And that is the guava tree. Not the guava tree, the mango tree. So a mango and a guava right there. And we allow things to grow up and spill over them. And this would be better later on, up in the other corner, going over a fence or something like that. We want to actually come back and save this tree in the near future. So let's move forward here now and keep just talking about it. Now, what I do in here is a chop and drop system. So we just come through with a little something to just go chop, 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 just chop the weeds, leave them on site, throw down mulch a couple of times a year, and keep feeding the soil system. Now, as we come down here, we're getting less fruit trees. I do have a little avocado, which they hate growing in clay soil, but we'll see how it goes. Probably won't survive. And then we've got, because it's just starting up in the season, one of my favorite trees to grow in the food forest is a moringa. Now, people don't know that you can actually, in temperate places, you can grow it if you can just keep it away from frosts as well. And it is an awesome tree. It's a medicine tree. It just grows so much food, so healthy, so full of nutrition. It's an hour video just on itself about the moringa. If you haven't got moringa in, do yourself a favor and do it. Now, we do have different grevilleas and things growing down here, and lily pillies and stuff. We want to put in native trees to attract the birds and things that feed on the native tree. So whatever's native to your area, mix it into your food forest, which is essentially your windbreak and a place for habitat, so these animals and insects can come out and take care of your garden as we grow. So look, if you're digging the video so far, please give us a thumbs up. As I said, this is possibly what I believe to be one of the most information jam-packed videos that I have ever made. So yep, hang in there guys, because we're still rocking and rolling and we are moving forward with it. So here is the bale garden. You can see the other side of it, and look at the size of these leaves for this plant. Can you guess what type of plant this is? Produces a big long fruit. We've got a couple of them in here, just growing in bales and compost connected to the ground in a no dig system. So, and this is very close to the chicken coop. So any of the worms and things that are in here will move backwards and forwards from the chicken coop into this system. The microbes, the fungi, all that is connected. So the whole idea is to connect everything. So we have this amazing connection in the ground. Now, I forgot to mention about the raised beds. We do have raised beds. I'll bring them down to you quickly. They were supplied to me by Mark from Self-Sufficient Me. And I told him, I said, down the line, mate, I'm going to be producing self-sufficiency videos. And he was stoked to hear that. And so thank you, Mark, for these. And we've got an avocado, we've got more zucchinis, there's potatoes, we've got, finishing up in here, some different herbs and things like that. Betel leaf all the way through here. And we're letting a lot of the herbs go into flower because I want them to attract the beneficial insects. Only last year we started building the vertical systems so we can start using our vertical space for peas, beans, cucumbers, things like that. We've got the snake bean growing here, and then we've got one of my favorite edibles down below, the kangkong down here, and tomatoes also in the system. So we're going to have lots of protein coming out of here soon if we decide not to eat something that's coming up in the next video. Herbs in here as well. So And you can see the beans are spilling over the top of this bale. We've got a bale sitting in the middle of the bed, and the reason is that creates a sump in the system, and also it helps with any of the fungi and things like that underneath, and worms and stuff to hide under there and slowly start feeding on that system and moving through. And so we have our leafy greens in here, which are chards, chilies, different stuff. And then we come down here, tomatoes, chilies, zucchini. We plant marigolds to help with soil nematode, which actually help stop the nematode from attacking the roots of plants. They also attract beneficial insects. We have peas and beans and things occasionally just spilling around. We get the odd pea. We don't trellis them up all the time, and we use them as a legume to get nitrogen into the soil, and also to improve the soil structure over time. And this was the first garden bed that I was excited about, because it's right in the corner of the house, which gets all the morning sun and reflects all the light off the house, and is protected from the cool breezes. What we need to do right over there is build right along there is another little mini food forest around, because we've got a lot more space to work on over in this system over there. But I don't want to take you over there because there's not a lot happening. So we've got about 1/3 of this place to still work with. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about the bale garden, because some of you have already been watching videos and some of you might be new. So what we do is we've got to get carbon down, and then we start throwing. Once the carbon starts getting aged, it's getting wet and moist and you can feel it's flexy, we start throwing compost on top. And then it starts rotting down. So down below, we have the worms coming up underneath. They're eating that and pulling that back down into the soil profile. They're eating it and pulling it back down and creating burrows underneath here and making the soil deeper. So as I said, they're working for me at the same time. The fungi is coming in here, and it's also starting to spread around here and feed on this carbon and the nitrogen that's soaking off the side onto this system. So I'm seeing mushrooms pop up after every rain, and we really mass plant into these. We don't want space. We just mass plant with herbs, tomatoes, whatever we got in season, peas, peas, beans, all those things, cucumbers, whatever we can, and then we use the vertical space as well. We need to consider always the vertical space, because we build that maybe after about a year. So in the first, unless you're really, really going for it and you got more time than me. Now, that is super important, because once we start doing things like this and we're building out no dig beds, so however you decide to build your no dig bed, once that's finished and you've had enough, you can come along and plant a fruit tree there, or a couple of fruit trees there, and you'll see growth like you've never ever seen before in your life, because as I said, it's building a soil profile, attracting all the worms already, all the good beneficial bacteria. Now what we have here is a mulberry tree grown from a cutting, and this, I cut it back. So the first year, and it's already about 12 feet tall, what I did the first year is I let it grow a little bit, and then I cut it back. I stumped it to allow the roots to get a really big root system. I didn't want it to grow good, big in the first season. And then the next season, boom, because it's already got a big root system. As soon as the sun was out and it's warm enough, look at it now. And what we've done, it's grown right next to a moringa in a pot here. We've got moringas also in the ground around here through this food forest. We'll get to that. So what I've got here is a choco climbing up it. So bit of permaculture stuff going on here with the choco climbing up into the tree and making it using that vertical space. As I mentioned, in your food forest, you can use the lower canopy, the midsection, and the full canopy. And then you're using all your space, and you're actually providing as much habitat as possible. And you can see here the moringa tree. This was given to me by Pepe Fasos from 560 Farms. One of the most nutritious plants to grow on the planet. We've got papaya here, which is kicking in, and then we move around back to the front yard. Now, that was pretty intense, right? A lot of information there. And that's why I mentioned I'm just going through the gate, you hear that noise. That's why I mentioned that you really need to bookmark this, you need to save it, you need to share it with friends and get it out there. This is how I'm growing a self-sufficient space in only 2 years and producing a lot of food. Now, before you go, there's one thing that I forgot to show you, because we talked about the chickens. Well, the chickens we're getting 8 eggs a day. It costs me around $1.20 a day we'll just go through the gate again, to feed the chickens. And we get 8 eggs a day at the moment. So if you do the math with that, they cost around about, for free range eggs, as they're organic, $10 for a dozen. So we're saving money, huge money on that, even though we're paying for probably 50% of our feed. The other 50% just comes from our waste and things around the garden as we're throwing it in. Now, I've got something I just want to finish up with. If you want to get meat on your kitchen table, then this is the best way to do it, quickly and efficiently. And you can see here, I've got little quail here, down in there. And these little quail, hello guys, we'll go in and we'll let them out. Let's do that, go in. So hang in there, let's go and let them out. And these naughty chickens can't escape, because I found a spot where they were getting out. They're always hungry, always hungry. Now let's go in here. If you haven't seen the video where I said what's behind this door, check it out. You'll learn more about the quail. I fill in a bit more information there. And hello, little high line. We'll come in here. Now these are my quail. These are Japanese Courtnicks, and we're going to let them out. We're going to come back. I'll come back and feed them after this. Now let's just see if they come out there. Come on. They're usually in a rush to come out. There it comes one. Yay! Oh, have a little flap. Yay, have a little flap. Yay! Come on girls. Come on. They're going, where's my food? You want more food? The other ones are pretty shy. They're waiting for more food to come in. And I keep them in this overnight because, and I let them out into that little section through the day. But I've got to come back and I've got to feed those Courtnicks quail, which really cost me not much at all. We're looking at the concept of whether we actually breed them for food down the line, or we just use them for eggs. It's really a bit of a trial period with them, but you can get a bird on your kitchen plate, just closing that door, within 2 months from the egg hatching. So if that interests you and you want to become fully self-sufficient, you could get up to 90% of your food by growing your veggies and getting your meat on the kitchen plate. Now, we provided a ton of information here. I'm going to be providing more information about how to grow food, fresh food fast at home, at your place, so you can start getting more productive, saving money, and becoming more self-sufficient over time. I produce a lot of different content, guys, from all types of stuff here, based on our little micro farm backyard here at Marty's Garden. So if you're digging the show, you're digging the content, please subscribe, share this video before you go, and we'll see you at the next video real soon. Wow, that was a lot of information, man. Just going through my head for years of it. All right, have a great day. Happy gardening, and we'll see you at the next video real soon. Bye for now.